Hello everybody. I just wanted to make a short video here to discuss the new formula for Valvoline VR1 racing oil. This applies to both the 10W30 and the 20W50 grades of this oil, and it only pertains to the conventional VR1. I'm not sure about the synthetic VR1 if it's changed at all, but this is for the conventional 10W30 and 20W50 VR1. I'm making this video because I'm seeing increasing amount of people that are spreading misconceptions about this oil, saying that, oh, well, the formula's changed, it's worse now, it's no good. People saying the ZDP levels have dropped, and people saying that the base oil is not as good. Okay, these are simply lies. I don't know where they're coming from. I don't know where they're getting started. It's probably just people just thinking of in their own mind, saying, oh, well, I don't like change. This formula's changed, therefore it must be worse. That's most likely what's going on, and they're just using whatever they can to confirm their bias. But this is a straight up comparison of the old formula of VR1 to the new formula. Why? And I'm just going to go into depth why you should not be concerned about the new formula. It is actually better. I'm going to explain why. First off, zinc and phosphorus. Both of these come from zinc dialkyl dithial phosphate, or ZDDP. And it is the primary anti-wear agent in the oil. As you can see, the levels are right about the same. It is showing slightly higher with the new formula. Reality is, it's probably not actually higher. That's just most likely it's within the margin of error for one batch to another. It's probably the same blend overall. But as you can see right here, plain as day, the levels have not changed. They have not dropped. It is still as effective a wear prevention as before. So, get rid of that myth right now. We can drop that misconception. The oil is just effective at preventing wear as it was before, if not more so, because of right here. Molybdenum is a friction modifier, mostly in the form of molybdenum dithial carbamate, or MODTC, and the greater branched version of it called trinuclear moly, as people call it, that is more effective than just moly by itself. But it used to have none in it. It finally has some, around 50 ppm. It's a start. It's a step in the right direction. Valvoline is finally coming on board with some neat metal friction modifiers in their oils. It's good to see. This only enhances ZDDP. It is also an antioxidant, just like ZDDP is. And while higher levels of ZDDP, to put out there a little bit of a knowledge point, higher levels of ZDDP increase the friction in the engine. They do so because it's the same way as if you were like stirring honey. Honey actually provides a pretty good, as you're stirring honey around in a bowl. It's thicker. It's harder to churn in it. ZDDP kind of does the same thing in higher amounts. It makes a harder, thicker cushion between metal parts to prevent metal-to-metal contact. In doing so, it increases hydrodynamic friction. The oil film is just literally thicker and harder to flow against. This provides a friction reduction to this, so that you have higher levels of high wear prevention at the same time getting friction reduction to help counter it. This is a very good additive that I'm glad to see used in here. It is an upgrade from before. And so is boron. Boron comes from borates. It's a mild detergent and an extreme pressure additive. I'm not the biggest fan of it, but I do like to see it. It does serve a good purpose. And again, it just benefits ZDP more. It helps provide a better cushion for the oil film. And levels about 140 ppm is about typical for a gas oil now in the industry. You'll find higher levels of it in diesel oils just because they have to lug such heavy loads at low RPM, so it's beneficial for them in that case. Gas oils, 100 to 150 ppm is more than enough, and it's glad to see that Valvoline is finally coming on board with that. Sodium. Thank God it's gone. Finally, Valvoline is finally catching up to the new world. They're getting rid of the sodium detergent. It is gone. The new formula has gotten rid of it. So, the less effective, cheap sodium detergent is finally out of here. I think Valvoline is one of the few that actually still using it 20 years after the rest of the industry abandoned it. So they have finally gotten away from it. It's finally gone. It's been replaced by magnesium. And but just to point out right now, sodium, magnesium, and calcium are all in the form of sodium sulfonate, magnesium sulfonate, and calcium sulfonate. So they're all kind of the same compound, just changing the metal that's used in there. And each metal has a different effectiveness. Magnesium is much more effective than sodium, around in the range of about 80% more effective. So this 520 ppm of magnesium is probably the equivalent if you had almost doubled the amount of sodium detergent, and as far as how effective the detergent is. And the reason that magnesium is coming on the scene is not just to counter the loss of sodium, but also to counteract the drastic cut to calcium. The reason calcium is coming out is the same as the rest of the oil industry. Calcium contributes to low-speed pre-ignition. And so, mostly for direct injected engines, but as the industry as a whole has cut that level down to help combat those problems, and as a result, they've all increased magnesium to help counteract. Going by the contribution to the total base number, or TBN, of an oil, which the TBN is kind of an indicator of the oil's service life. The higher the TBN, roughly the longer the oil can be used before it needs to be changed. So by looking at that, sodium contributes around 2.3 TBN for every 1000 ppm. Magnesium contributes around 4.2 TBN for every 1000 ppm, and calcium contributes around 2.8 TBN for every 1000 ppm of neat metal. And some of these are very common that you have in your household, actually. A lot of people don't realize that magnesium sulfonate is a carrier for magnesium carbonate. Magnesium carbonate is milk of magnesia. Same thing you can buy off the shelf at Walgreens. Calcium sulfonate is a carrier for calcium carbonate. And calcium carbonate is chalk. It's just standard chalk. And Tums is the same thing. Tums is calcium carbonate. And when you take Tums, it neutralizes the acids in your stomach to prevent heartburn. It does the same thing in engine oil. When you have acids that are introduced to the oil as byproducts of gasoline combustion or from atmospheric air pulled in through a breather system, these detergents will attack those acids and neutralize them so that they don't oxidize the oil. And it keeps the oil clean, keeps the oil serviceable for longer. That's what these are here for. So, the new formula is better than the old one. You don't have as much detergent, you have better detergents being used, and the effectiveness is higher even though the levels are lower as far as calcium goes. So, do not worry about the new formula. It is a better formula than the old one, and it's just all around, don't worry about it. Use it with confidence. Don't be afraid of it. The new formula is better than the old one. That's all. If you have any comments, feel free to. If you have any questions, feel free to comment on the video. And as always, have a good day.